Hi, I'm Karen Pennington, and today I want to talk about something that is like a really serious problem that's plaguing our nation. Carboholicism, that's what I've decided to call it, and I only partly say that in jest. And by carboholicism, I mean our wonderful love affair over addiction to bread, or anything bread. I love bread. I also kind of really don't like bread at all because it's a love-hate relationship. I love bread. Bread hates my figure. Or maybe it likes my figure because it adds to it. So, but seriously, anyone who knows me that knows that like most Americans, maybe more so than some, I've really struggled with health and weight issues, and I've kind of, by God's grace and surgery, I kind of gotten it under control. But I really, really have to watch it when it comes to eating bread or pizza or anything like that. There are certain kinds of pizza that they don't even taste good. But I think I'm a little nuts in this area. I'll eat two pieces and go, oh, I don't even like the way it tastes. Why did I do that? And then uh, an hour later, I'll be like, I'm hungry. Where's the pizza? I can eat a whole pizza in a day, just two pieces at a time, because it's like the more I eat it, the more I want it. And my particular issue comes on Sunday morning, or not so much anymore since COVID, but beforehand, it was a donut thing. We have my church has these great donuts every Sunday morning, or they did. Hopefully, maybe not. Hopefully, it'll start again. But so they'd have these donuts in the morning, and so I'd be really, really good all weekend. I'd count my carbs, and I'd make sure I had really good ratios of make sure I was eating whole grains if I was eating bread at all, and that it was only a little bit, and at the beginning of the day, and I'd have my vitamins and my water, and I'd walk like a fiend, and so Sunday was my cheat day, and that made me so happy, and I'd go in and I'd eat donuts. But this is what would happen every Sunday. I would go in, do my stuff I was supposed to do, and then so there's always a lot of donuts left over. So I'd get a donut, and almost always, all the good donuts are gone by the time I get there. So I would eat, I don't know, a plain one, or you know, glazed isn't my favorite either. You got to fill it. Put the stuff on the inside, not the outside. So I'd eat a glazed donut, and I'd eat it and go, that really wasn't that good. And so I'd eat another one. Makes no sense. I'm like, let's give this donut a second shot. It can't do anything. And so sometimes, seriously, by the end of hours and hours, then I'd come back at the end of church, and there'd be leftover, like a half a muffin or something, and it's like, well, you can't let that go to waste. So, like, after being so good all week, I would eat like sometimes three donuts on a Sunday morning, and then I would. To be fair, it was over a 4 hour period or a 3 hour period, or sometimes not. But I would come home, and then I'd be like, man, I just want to I need to give me a sandwich, or like, we don't feel like cooking today. Let's go eat out. We want to do something cheap. Let's go eat pizza. So I ate pizza. Then I feel so bad, and I'm like, and by like after lunch, about ready to go in a carb coma, and I'm like, okay, no donuts. I would literally sometimes I would get so mad at myself. I would ground myself. I do this. I ground myself from food because I can stop if I say I'm going to stop out loud because I detest lying. So, okay, I'm grounded for donuts for a month. And one time I grounded myself from donuts for 3 months or 4 months. And I'd be great until the next time I was allowed to eat donuts. I need to do the same. It's like some people can't eat just one Lay's potato chip. Evidently, I can't eat just one donut. So, I mean, it was horrible, but there's reason for it. There are these properties, particularly now in carbohydrates, where um, if you eat only carbs, you're going to want more carbs. If you eat only bread, you're going to want more bread. Now, bread has a place, um, but it's not supposed to be the only thing you eat, especially not in our culture where we're not that active physically as others are. But especially if you eat it on an empty stomach, then you want more. In fact, like they say, like people with diabetes and blood sugar issues, if you're going to eat a little bit of carbs, unless you're like and going into insulin shock, a lot of times the healthy way to eat is you have a little bit of carbs, a little bit of meat, a little bit of protein, maybe a little bit of fat. And that's the healthy way to eat because there's a balance there. But the big thing is, and I've realized this, if I'm filling up on the food that's good for me and that I like, then I'm not as tempted. Sometimes I'm just not desiring, it's like not there to want to fill up on not just carbs, but like the pizzas and the donuts and these empty calories that do nothing but add to your figure in a most unholy way. At least I say. So this whole thing is not new. Maybe the carb thing isn't. Maybe that's an American thing because people moved around a lot. But this whole idea of filling up on the wrong things, it's pretty much as old as time, and pretty much started in the Garden of Eden. But I just want to talk about the Church at Ephesus, and it's an interesting thing. Paul wrote to Ephesus, and it was a pretty impressive church because not only did Paul write to the Church of Ephesus, which was in the main city of Asia Minor, later on, the Apostle John, in the book of Revelation, wrote to 7 churches, only to 7 churches, and Ephesus was one of those. And if you know anything about the letters John wrote to Ephesus, a lot of them weren't so nice. A lot of them weren't so great. Laodicea, you do not want to be like Laodicea. They were lukewarm. He said God's going to actually vomit you out. Some translations say spit because they want to be nice, but the word is vomit. I would not want to be called vomit, I'm just going to say. But in some churches, 1 or 2 churches got a really good review, but Ephesus was kind of in the middle because they'd forgotten their first love, but they had also stayed strong about corruption. They had kept out the Nicolaitans, which were people who either said, don't drink it all or get drunk. They didn't have a healthy relationship with the things that can bring us pleasure in life because you either completely avoided the pleasure or you so overindulged in it. And that was actually a little bit of a problem in Ephesus. Ephesus worshipped the god Artemis, who ironically, she was the virgin goddess. She was a huntress, so she was very strong and very, I don't tolerate things. She tolerated, in Greek mythology, obviously it was a mythological figure, but Greco-Roman mythology, she did not even tolerate a man looking at her the wrong way. Actually, sounds like a pretty cool chick if, she was real and all that. But she just didn't tolerate that. She was a goddess of purity, and she was a goddess of discipline. She was a self-made woman. She went out and got her own food, and ironically, in all of that, she was seen as the goddess of fertility. So when they had these festivals in Ephesus, they would last a month long. So they're having these festivals to a virgin goddess who did not like over excess, who did not want people to even look at her disrespectfully. And they celebrated her by having drunken orgies. We're talking about the ancient Roman world. They pretty much celebrated everything by having drunken orgies. But Ephesus, the church at Ephesus seemed to resemble a little bit more that part of her that was disciplined, the part of her that kept people at arm's length because they were disciplined and they didn't tolerate disrespect of God or anything. But they had kind of forgot their last love. I can talk. They forgot their first love. And you see, no matter how disciplined we are, no matter how much I count my calories during the week, when we get to the point where we forget God as our first love, where we're not filling up on Him first thing in the morning, then we're opening ourselves up for some form of addiction. Some people call it lust. Some people call it idolatry. Basically, the idea of addiction, which is a form of idolatry, is where anything but God is offering to fill us in a way that only God can. So even when we're looking to fill our lives with meaningful activity, when that's not rooted in meaningful relationship, particularly our most meaningful relationship with the source of life, we're headed for a crash, or we're headed for an emptiness. And kind of like when I fill up on the right things, I don't really crave the wrong things because I'm satisfied. When we fill up on God, when God is our source, then those other things, they just don't need. We don't need them, right? But on the other hand, when I go to church in the morning and I haven't had my eggs, and I haven't had my, sometimes I put spinach in my eggs because that gets me nice and full. And sorry if you think it's gross, don't judge me, it works. But when I go like that and I drink my water, and even spiritually, sometimes I confess, I'll skip my time with Jesus on Sunday mornings. Like, I got it covered at church, and I still need my Jesus in the morning. You know, if I go without that, then immediately, like, my first thought is not how do I worship. Literally, my first thought is where are the donuts, you know, and I'm not hating on people who love donuts. I think you know what I'm trying to say. Paul also says it in talking to the Ephesians, these people that are so disciplined. You know, he said, "Don't get drunk on wine, but be filled with the Holy Spirit." Don't get drunk on wine, but be filled with the Holy Spirit. Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery, that's what we're talking about when we're overfilled and drunk, and we're filled with the wrong things because we haven't been initially filled with the right thing. Instead, be filled with the Holy Spirit. When we fill up on the Holy Spirit, there's not a whole lot of room for that other stuff. Now, I'm not saying that we walk with God, we still struggle. I still struggle with bread and donuts, and God still loves me and uses me. But, Ephesians 5:18, that's the verse. That's really a challenge, and it's great, and I don't know if I'm calling that a challenge today. I'm calling it an encouragement. You know, when we're empty, there's a place to be filled. You know, and we don't have to replace it with things that don't satisfy. We don't have to replace our real, true spiritual nourishment with something that in itself isn't bad. Now, listen, a donut every once in a while isn't bad. A piece of candy isn't bad. I'm not saying, it's evil to have a soda every now and then. But that's a side thing. That's icing on the cake, That's icing on the cake. I'm talking about the meat and potatoes and vegetables. That's what God is. God can fill you. God will fill you. Sometimes we got to wait for it just a little bit. Sometimes we have to just start moving towards it. But I promise you, God is enough and more than enough to meet your needs. All that other stuff, just a tiny bit of extra. Some of it's not even worth having. Lord Jesus, thank you so much. You are enough. You are enough. Only you can fully fill us. Only you can fully satisfy us, even when we're tongue-tied and carboholics. And you already accept us, and you already love us, and you already want us, God. So help us to rest so fully in your arms every day, that nothing can even seduce us into moving in that direction, because we're so full of you. We just don't want anything that takes away from that. Be blessed today.